try to get a little bit of these readings so that people know what's up for these live feeds. Hello everyone, by the way. And thank everyone that has read so far. I wanted to share with you instead of butting in when I'm going in my second round for readings at Poetic license. I know. What am I doing with these signs just because they're here and I'm not at a bookstore anymore, so why not share them? I might as well share poetry from the other literary magazine I do, Down in the Dirt magazine. It used to be a subsection of CC&D magazine, and chosen from one of the titles was Reverse. And I asked people voted, which one do you like more? And everyone's like, I like Reverse because it is a shot of, two different shots I've taken of the Chicago skyline. One from a boat and one from an airplane that I put together under the cover, which was really kind of fun to do. And I was going to share with you 3 poems, count them 3, yes, that not only appear in this new Down in the Dirt issue called Reverse. It has Chicago on the back cover, but it has Chicago with other buildings from around the world on the front. Why am I telling you about the cover? Anyway, this is Reverse. But 3 poems I'm going to share from the back of this book that are not only in this book, but also in the book The Universe is in Your Hands. Yes, they're related to different locations. I hope you guys like them. This first one, I know I don't have any images to show you on a screen, but this is titled The One at Mardi Gras, The Universe is in Your Hands edit. And I'm seeing my husband coming here with ornaments. I think he's going to start decorating a tree. Awesome. Anyway, this is called The One at Mardi Gras, The Universe is in Your Hands edit. I was at Mardi Gras and got a bunch of beads from parades. No, I didn't lift my shirt for them. A friend of mine had a balcony on Bourbon Street, so we were on it on a Friday night and saw the swarms of people stretch for over a mile as one large mass. No one could walk, and the crowd just kind of carried them along. All the men expected women to get naked for them for beads, but I refused to strip for drunk strangers. Men would look up to me on a balcony inquisitively, as if to either ask me to give them beads or for me to strip. Since I wasn't stripping, and I decided to turn the tables and see if these men would accept the same conditions they asked of these women. When they'd look up at me like that, I would say, "Drop your pants!" They would look up at me confused because the women are supposed to be the ones that are doing all the stripping. But in general, I got 2 responses from the men. Either they would look at me like I was crazy and walk away, or they would shrug as if to say, okay, and then they'd start unzipping their pants. They'd then make a gesture to turn around as if to ask, do you want to see my butt? And I would have to yell at them, the front. And they'd say, okay, and then they would just start to move around, and then they'd drop their pants and their underwear to their knees, and then they'd start moving and shaking their hips, which I never asked for, by the way. Over the course of the evening, I managed to get at least 20 men to strip like this for me, and I was amazed that there was this microcosm of society that allowed this kind of debauchery in the streets, a sort of prostitutional plastic beads form of capitalism. I was reveling in this bizarre annual ritual when one man, wearing gray and minding his own business, decided to look up at me. I asked him to drop his pants, and instead of disgustedly leaving or willingly obliging, he just crossed both arms on his chest and looked up at me as if to ask, "You want me to do what? You naughty, naughty girl." And he smiled and looked up at me, and it occurred to me that I finally found someone in this massive crowd that thinks the way I do. It's someone that wouldn't blindly do what I asked, but at the same time wouldn't think I was crazy for asking. For the next half hour, he never left from under my balcony, and he would still look up occasionally to make sure I was there and look up at me. He finally signaled that he had to move on with his friends, so I threw some beads to him. Not only because he was a good sport, not even because he was so good looking, but just because he was the only one in New Orleans who actually earned them. I think I read that years ago at the open mic. I ended up taking over, and I'm like, I'm gonna read that one, and I'm standing on a table like I'm on a balcony. What? I jumped up on a table and read it. Anyway, this was on a few shows. I might share really bad images from them for you just because I like to perform way too much. There's a longer one called Key to Survival. It's in a couple parts. Have you ever seen someone who has a flock of people all around them, and that someone is just naturally talking, but people are just attracted to them like they're moths to a flame, and they're there like they're suntanning high school girls facing this person's bright light, wanting to soak them all in and hoping that they are more beautiful for it? You see these people, everyone's smiling, circled around this special someone. It's like an animal magnetism. You can't help but try to nudge in to hear their words, to try to get a little of that narcotic for yourself. It's like being a child again, with a ton of kids in a candy store, when someone's simply giving out free candy, and all these little kids are so thrilled, and they're all just grinning from ear to ear. You haven't even gotten close enough to hear their words, but you're already starting to smile. Have you ever met someone standing at the corner of an intersection and they look dirty and disheveled, and you try to keep your distance because you're guessing they're homeless and asking for money, but you have to pass them and they're right in the street on your way, so you try to walk on the farthest edge of the sidewalk, but then when you catch them with your peripheral vision, you can see that they're just making animated gestures, like you could see their face contorting, like they're having a great debate with no one, like they're having this grand speech of their lifetime and they're giving it to no one. Because, you see, no one wants to listen. Everyone knows this is a madman raving, so you just try to ignore them, and you make a point to not listen. I mean, there's a hell of a lot of noise we tune out of our minds. Cars going by, honking their horns, the low rumble of other people talking nearby, the shuffle of your own footsteps. Well, this is just another one of those noises. You don't want to hear them. You've had a bad feeling about them as soon as you saw them. Just ignore them, and hopefully they'll go away. I know of a woman who went on a date with a male friend of mine, and after the date, the guy talked about how great she was, and they talked about their futures and what they both wanted. He talked about the inside of her place, but after he left messages for her repeatedly, she never called him back again. Saw this woman weeks later at a Starbucks, and she said she felt bad, but she never wanted to see him again, because during their date, they didn't talk about what they wanted. He talked about what he wanted, like how she wouldn't work because he told her how many of his children she would have. She wouldn't let him into her house. Does that mean that he was looking through her window? And she said that after the date, she showered for hours because she felt mentally raped. Poor girl. She saw someone who seemed nice, but it took her only a short while to know what he was really like. Sometimes you look at people and you just know. Sometimes it takes you a little while, for people can't hide their souls forever. Everyone gets that feeling about someone, whether they want to admit it. It's not women's intuition. I mean, men feel it too. You feel it in your chest or when you see someone good, or else you get that feeling in the pit of your stomach when you see someone bad. Sometimes you look at people and you just know. And you try to avoid that feeling that you get, and you can try to shrug it off as nothing, and you can try to run away from that feeling for years, but you can't hide your soul forever. It'll catch up to you when you least expect it. Sometimes you just know. You've felt it. I've felt it too. We know what to run to and what to steer clear of. We've got to. It's in our nature. It's a key to happiness and our key to survival. That was, it was a weird piece, and that was in a show called Key to Survival. When I first came back, I was doing shows, and I would put them up on a screen so you wouldn't have to look at my face. And I had a Key to Survival icon in that one for that one. Oh, and I think I might have read that, and I don't know if Lorna was here to know that when I did a show with Vito, and it was at a Starbucks, and I was sitting reading at a Starbucks, and, you know, just sitting and reading in a show called Getting Wired. Getting Wired, yeah, like me, I guess. But this last one, which I don't know what show it was from, it might have been from the same one. Let me check, I will tell you. And it is titled, Get Me Out of This Cage. Yeah, it was just in the one show. I was just looking at the pictures and Get Me Out of This Cage. Get me out of this cage. You've been trying to censor me for God knows how long. I don't know, maybe you didn't want to hear my views because you didn't believe those views should be expressed. But you never knew what I stood for. You never wanted my voice to be heard because you always thought of me as a possession, not a person. Yeah, I can be a real pain in the ass to anyone who doesn't want to hear me, but you know what? People do want to listen. People value the right to speak their minds. And people know that if you take that away from someone, you're taking it away from everyone. So you can try to leave me in this locked cage. You can try to keep me away from everyone else. But you know, I've been clawing at the roof and I can feel the grooves in the ceiling here from my fight. But I still have nails on the tips of my fingers. I know that I can keep clawing. I know I can keep fighting because I know I have more work to do and I'll get it done. I tell you, I will be free again. Your cage isn't airtight. I've seen light from outside when you've held me trapped, and every once in a while I've seen shadows, and I'm sure there are other people there. You can't keep me trapped like this forever, because people will hear my screams through the cracks in your precious cage. And no, I don't care what kind of cage you've put me in, because I'll keep fighting. I'm strong like that, you know. I don't want to hear that you think I've gone too far, because as much as you try to oppress me, as much as you try to repress me, I'm supposed to be the one with some inalienable rights here. I know that you're addicted to playing video games. Yeah, I'd rather spend your time interacting with a story on a screen with your precious little joystick than actually talking to someone. But just because you don't feel like reaching out to people doesn't mean that you can force me into that cage again. I suppose that if you don't think, I suppose that if you don't watch the news, if you don't interact with people, you think, why should anyone want to talk to people? Well, if you want to do that for yourself, fine. If you don't mind giving up rights because you have nothing to offer, fine. But the rest of the world doesn't think like you, and we sure the hell don't want you ruling over us. Since 9/11, laws have been passed to legally take our rights away. You know, to make us more safe. Fair trade, freedom for perceived safety. But I'd rather fly in the face of danger in this country. I'd rather make it on my own without the likes of you, if it means I might be more free. I'll look over my shoulders. I'll watch out for myself. I'll do whatever I have to make sure that the likes of you can never stop the likes of me. Yeah, that was for another one from that show where I was Get Me Out of This Cage. Yeah, Get Me Out of This Cage. That first one that I read from this was from The Universe Is in Your Hands, but the other two were just from this, from past shows. And thank you guys for listening. I think we are all doing groovy cool here with timing because I don't have a clock and it's right at that halfway point. If everybody reads long, we'll have one more round, but if we go through quickly, we might be able to do more. I don't know, but either way, the first person that's always up is, yay, my Zoom host of honor. And as I said, I've already got the thing pulled aside so that I don't lose the link, so that I can give that man some coffee. I want to be like Twin Peaks and be like, coffee, coffee. But ladies and gentlemen, please give it up for our Zoom host, for our guest host this evening, Mr. Triple Plus Cool himself, David. Take it away. The stage is officially yours.